Mobility training. Today we are dissecting the middle splits and we're launching an epic middle splits routine later on today for you guys. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to be revealing the biggest mistake we see people make with this movement. We're also going to be revealing some of the biggest breakthroughs that our tribe has had, including Matt, who is in the thumbnail today. And we've got 3 really great discussion points to talk about. We've had a lot of love from you guys. We love you for it. Right back at you. All that and more coming up right after this. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
Hey everyone, in case we haven't met, my name's Rad Burmeister, that's my tongue-tied brother Yanni Burmeister, and we are the co-founders of Unity Gym and the co-creators of the UMS, the Unified Movement System, formerly known as the FMS, where we teach you how to nourish and move instead of diet and exercise. And we're talking about the middle splits today. Middle splits.
First thing I'd like to say is, you're not interested in your microphone, or?
Oh, fuck.
Are you?
Whatever.
I apologise for Rad.
Anyway, yeah, that's me.
He's rad.
It's all good. Anyway, there we go. There's my microphone. Hey, I can see there's a bunch of you guys watching. Give us a shout out. Let us know where you're watching from and hit the like button.
We got
Show us some love. Kai's on there. Hey, mates.
From Noosa.
Noosa. Good to see you, brother.
How's the kite surfing, man? We had a guy here helping us who's a member of our tribe at the gym, who is a big kite surfer. He was driving me back and forth to Bunnings whilst we were doing our renovations.
Yeah, he's right into it. Loves it.
He said, I might even know you, because apparently he races and competes and all that sort of thing. So anyway, his name's Tim.
Yep.
Let's
get into the middle splits.
Let's dive straight in.
The key in...
First of all, I want you to talk about the 3 progressions or lessons that we're releasing today in the tutorial, which are these
so we've got a
here.
tutorial that's coming out. It's Yanni's wrist. He's just he's a little pussy and he's got a little blister on his hand. There's nothing wrong with his wrist. It's a blister on his hand, and
I'm doing renovations. See, these guys watch me work.
That's how much tape Yanni needs for a blister.
I'm on the tools all day again today, mate, and it's got infected. It's a nasty blister, and it tore a bit of skin off the palm of my hand.
Yeah, it's a terrible. Hey, Karina. You're in Sydney. Oh, cool. You're gonna have to come and visit us one day, Karina.
Absolutely.
So let's. So the 3. Yeah, we're releasing a middle splits tutorial today. We've done a video on a tutorial for you guys, so look out for that today. And there are 3 things that we talk about in there. Sorry, I'm looking down at my notes here. So we talk about an exercise specific warm up. So doing Cossack squats and 360 hip rotation drills and why they're so good for warming up for the middle splits.
And why don't you tell us why they're so good?
Because they work unilaterally is one of the big reasons. So you're focusing on one side at a time so that it doesn't overwhelm the nervous system so much, and your nervous system will allow each joint to go further individually than it will both joints together.
Yep.
When I say joints, both hips, both legs together.
Yep.
And the 360 hip rotation drill is so good because it hits every angle. So it doesn't just hit the adductors, it hits the adductors from every angle, but it also gets the hamstrings. It gets this beautiful transitional movement between the adductors to the hamstrings, and it also even gets around into the hip flexors as well. So the whole hip complex gets warmed up from it. Then the next one is the beginner exercise is a progressive loaded mobility using tumble track sliders. This is an awesome one because it does really challenge beginners. It takes you well out of your comfort zone because it makes you feel like the tumble track sliders are going to, pull your legs apart.
Well, they are. It's a real eye-opener for the first time you do it. If you haven't used the tumble track sliders, I'll make sure I'll link them in the description of this video. I have to update that. But they're so good. But the first couple of times you use them, it's pretty freaky.
It's very scary, yeah. You feel like your legs are going to get torn apart. But you overcome that pretty quickly and you go through a massive adaptation.
Yep.
The way that the adductors strengthen, the way that your central nervous system's ability to use the adductors as a muscle that actually is load bearing, because it's very, very rare that the adductors work synergistically with the hamstrings normally to create movement, but to control that much load, it's not what they normally get used for. for. And then the last one that we talk about is an advanced exercise, which is progressive loaded middle splits using a CRAC method, which is contract, relax, antagonist, contract, which is, watch the video tutorial. It's an awesome drill that has given me massive progress this year. Since
that was actually in the tutorial. It's the first time I've really played with that drill, and it was pretty good.
It's really good. I have made massive improvements. It's something that I've only been working with for this year. I started working with it in only a few months ago, and it's an unreal drill. It's made massive improvements for me. It's a part of the Mobility Masterclass. We've got it in there, and anyway, so you'll see it this afternoon.
So the tutorial that's going up is for beginner right through to advanced level people. There's something in there for everyone, and the drills that we're doing, we want to keep them sort of these videos around 10 minutes, so we can only be quite selective of what we put in there, but we put in the best stuff. Like, it's the best bang for your buck stretches and mobility drills that we believe we've had the biggest breakthroughs from. So make sure you catch it. It's going to go out later on today about midday Sydney time. It's almost midday now, so in an hour or two,
about half an hour or an hour.
I just got to finish the thumbnail. Then, other than that, the biggest insight that really we've collected over the last 25 years of our training, but since we've been really teaching this stuff to our tribe in the gym over the last 6 years, it's become absolutely obvious to us that people stretch too hard. It's a quest.
This is the biggest mistake that I made when I was working towards the middle splits.
Yeah, especially the middle splits, because you're somewhat vulnerable to overstretching, because when we do the progressive loaded stretching, your body, you're taking all of that weight. Unlike the pancake where it's just about hinging forward, all of your body weight is compressing down into your pelvis, and you really need to manage the load, and that's why it's called progressive loaded mobility and flexibility.
I reckon it's more to do with leverage. I reckon it's to do with, I was just thinking while you were talking, why is it that because I've torn muscles in my adductors and my groin more doing the middle splits than any other stretch, and I was trying to think why, and I reckon it's because of the leverage, because when your legs are open that far, that it takes such a small amount of force to create such a massive movement in the hips, whereas with the pancake it's not as far like that, and with the front splits you can rotate out of it. So when you're in the front splits, if you go a little bit too far you can rotate your hips, but you can't go anywhere with the middle splits. Like if you go a little bit too far, it just does it. You know?
Well, also the front splits, it's a way that the body is designed and structured to move much more than the box splits or the middle splits. Yeah, that's right. So this is really key, guys, and this is really essential. Remember that we say this a lot, and we're going to keep saying it until it is like everyone knows it. Flexibility is about breaking down the brain's inhibitors. Your body, the muscle spindles are communicating constantly with the brain. The reason why, we can hold one leg out to 90 degrees quite comfortably when we're standing up, but not both legs at the same time to do a perfect box splits is not because there's something attaching the two legs that hits an end range point. There's nothing attaching the two legs. There's only tissue attaching one leg to the joint structure.
Hey, Joshua.
Hey, Josh. And so in theory, anatomically, mechanically, everyone should be able to do the splits that can achieve 90 degrees on each leg individually. The reason why we can't is because the muscle spindles send signals to the brain saying, hey, we're reaching a very vulnerable position here. You need to contract and prevent us from going any further. So the biggest part of flexibility training is breaking down those brain's inhibitors. If you look at the textbooks, it actually says that it's about delaying the signal back and forth, the communication between muscle to brain. But we just talk about it as breaking down those inhibitors so that we can overcome them and stretch further and further and further. So, and why don't you explain what happens if you stretch to pain or if you stretch too far on a physiological level with those muscle spindles?
Yeah, on a physiological level, if you stretch too far, you basically inhibit those.
You trigger the inhibitor.
But you cause the inhibitor to trigger earlier in your
subsequent training sessions.
Yep.
So because it realizes, wow, this was bad. I did
Yep.
damage now. There's micro tears in the muscle now, and I need to do my job better. So when you go back into your next session, the inhibitors trigger sooner, which means that you can't stretch as far.
Yeah.
And it's the most frustrating experience. For me, it took so long, and it was so frustrating because I didn't know this stuff when I was learning how to do the splits. And we're only talking about 4 years ago. I couldn't do the splits. I decided that I was going to get really flexible about 4 years ago and became obsessed with it. And when I was learning, I didn't know this. And I remember I was just training. I just said, I'm just going to do it for an hour every day, no matter what. And so many times I'd go forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards. And then when I got it really wrong, I'd do a little tear and I wouldn't be able to stretch at all for maybe about 2 or 3 weeks. And my first lesson was that I learned that once I'd actually done a small tear in the muscles, and I'd try to stretch the next day, and I couldn't even go to 70 or 80% of what I did the day before. My first lesson was that at that point I had to stop trying to get better, and I had to wait until that pain went, and that took me a lot of time to figure out.
Yeah.
Because I would warm up, and when you warm up you feel okay, and then I'd just push myself into it, and then the next day it was even worse.
Yeah.
So it took me months and months and months to figure that out for myself, and it wasn't until I started putting all the pieces together that I really started to understand this concept. So that's what happens on a physiological level. The inhibitors start to kick in sooner, stops you from being able to stretch properly. And if you stretch properly, besides DOMS from weightlifting is going to affect your stretching, but if you remove that, if you stretch properly, each stretching session you should get a little bit better. You shouldn't get worse. And definitely over, like if you average out over 1 to 2 weeks, like
Yep.
that 1 to 2 week period, you should see improvement. Just like with weightlifting, you shouldn't hit plateaus that last for longer than a week or two,
Yep.
or strength training, not just weightlifting.
Yep.
And it's all about understanding how to do it. This idea that people say I'm genetically I can't get flexible. Yeah, there's some people out there, but the research shows that genetics make up for less than like 2 or 3% of the population that can't do certain things normally.
Yeah, it's usually due to a mechanical, structural sort of issue, and we've definitely met people. Rad and I have our limitations in certain areas of the body. We all do, but
We've met heaps of people that have got limitations, but yeah.
But the key here is to understanding how this whole system works, how the flexibility mechanism works, and not overstretching, over pushing it to pain, because it, as Rad said, it stifles progress, and it essentially makes you less flexible over time. So there's that, obviously you've got to explore your body, but you've got to understand the difference between pain and discomfort, and never ever stretch to pain.
Yeah, and that's hard. Like people say, as soon as we say that, we get a lot of questions where people are saying, so what's the difference between pain and discomfort? You have to explore that yourself.
Yeah.
Like, how can you really say, I've given my wife, a massage, and she goes, it hurts too much. And I look at her and say, are you serious? Like I was barely touching you, so pain for someone is nothing for someone else, You can't say this is what pain feels like. You have to learn yourself. For me, pain is way less than what I first thought it was. I've got a high threshold for pain. So what I would go, okay, come on, I can push further and I can get something, and I'd be feeling a sensation that was actually pain. But I'd push through it and think, no, I've got to go past this. And that's come from decades and decades of training and increasing my pain threshold through, decades of kung fu and being in the army and experience and everything like that. Whereas somebody that's untrained, that's never pushed their body, they'll experience pain much, much sooner than somebody else.
So this brings us to the biggest mistake that we see people making, which is absolutely that they push to pain and go far beyond just a level of discomfort where they're still making improvements and gains. They push to pain. That triggers the muscle spindles to contract and prevent any stretching. And then on top of that, additionally, it causes that inhibitor to kick in earlier the next time their body senses they're going into that position. So when you come back to do your next flexibility workout to improve your middle splits, you are essentially less flexible than when you were the workout before. And that stifles people, and it tends to really, I just wrote a really good blog article on the keys to happiness, and one of them, there's two elements. One of them is progress. If we're not making progress, we become very unhappy, and of course that ruins motivation, drive, and often that's the reason why people never get flexible, because they just don't quite understand that, and they make that key mistake. So
Kai's given us a really good comment. Some yoga teachers need to learn this, and isn't that the truth, man? Not just yoga teachers, but there's a lot of teachers out there in the fitness industry that never really learned the science behind what's going on in the body. And what they did is they achieved a great level of success themselves through their own experience. And often they were lucky. Often they were just genetically had a body that took to yoga or calisthenics or weightlifting or whatever, and they never had to go through these ups and downs that the rest of us have to go through, and so they don't understand it. They don't get why you are telling them this hurts me and I'm not getting better, and their answer is push harder, do more.
Yeah.
And you're
More
so
volume.
right, man. It's really unfortunate. A lot of teachers, not just yoga teachers, a lot of teachers need to understand
We
this stuff.
had a gentleman who's a subscriber of our YouTube channel reach out. I think it was earlier this week. He's practiced multiple different disciplines of yoga his whole life, and he's had the biggest breakthroughs recently with a few of our videos from YouTube, which is all this philosophy of understanding how that mechanism works. And so obviously there's always room for improvement no matter what.
And the thing is, like, going back to the common question that we get asked is, how do I know the difference between pain and discomfort? The truth is, it's through trial and error. It's the only way you're going to know. It's through experience. And you absolutely have to accept that injuries are part of this journey. It's part of the journey of becoming stronger and more flexible. You are going to experience injuries, but what you want to do is learn to make the injuries very small and insignificant, things that will fix themselves within a week or two, and learn from it. So the idea would be, you think, oh, well, I'm not really getting better at flexibility. I'll try going a little bit more. I'll try to experience that discomfort on a higher level. And you keep going until one day you come in and you go, oh, man, I've done something. I can't stretch as far as I did yesterday. There's your big lesson. You went a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Now you understand it. And then you've got to reflect back. There's so much value in that little injury that you've got, that you have to take the time to reflect on it and think, what did I feel yesterday that was different than the day before? What was my intention? What was I trying to achieve? And you learn from it and grow, and that's how you get better. It's the only way.
Yeah, absolutely. Morning, Quack.
Hey, morning, Quack. So Karina's saying, yes, my martial arts teacher pushes stretches to pain. Oh, and don't they ever? Martial arts
are the
teachers,
worst.
Martial arts and gymnastics are the worst.
I remember kickboxing. I did Muay Thai kickboxing for about 4 years when I was much younger, and luckily more bendy. But we used to do this drill where we had someone squat down low and you put your leg on their shoulder, and
we did that one.
you'd
And
stand
they'd just
against
stand
the
up.
wall, and they'd stand up, and like you'd literally just get forced into the
we did that
splits.
one. One of my mates at my kung fu school tore the hamstring off the bone from doing that.
Yeah,
he was out for 9 months.
and it was like the most painful thing. And the goal was to pair up with someone of an even height, and those people would have to stand up as
And
like
get your
fully
leg up
straight.
above your head, yeah.
Get your leg above your
Those
head.
partner stretches are the worst. And you know what? You know why gymnastics, I won't say everyone, but you know why so many gymnastics and martial arts teachers are so bad like that, Karina? It's because they learned as kids. And they learned from a teacher that had the same methods. But guess what? When you're a kid, your body just goes there. Like they grab you and go to here, and you're a kid, your body just goes there.
And you heal.
And you
much
heal, exactly.
quicker because your body, you have an abundance of growth hormone in your body.
That's exactly right. And then they become adults and they start training adults, and they don't know any better. They go, well, this is how you get flexible. You just got to go like this, It's horrible.
Yeah,
it's
exactly right.
really, really bad. So choose your teachers wisely. If your teacher's telling you over and over again to go through the point of pain, then you might want to find a new teacher.
Yes, that's the drill we have.
Yeah.
Even step back, so there's so much pressure on the knee.
Watch out with that one, Karina. Seriously, watch out with that one. That's what you call It's partner stretching, and that is definitely called a passive stretch, where there's an external force pushing on your legs. So there's not the same feedback loop that's happening in the central nervous system because you're not the one controlling it. There's someone else controlling it. So there's less room for good growth, for good control, and far more room for injury. If you try and tell this to your martial arts teacher, they won't have a bar of it because they're the expert and you're the student. So be very, very careful with that.
Yeah.
I'd be, anyway. You've got the 18-minute stretching routine now, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, some kids are tight. You're right, of course. Yeah, there's ones that take to it and some that don't. But you've got the 18-minute stretching routine, if I'm not mistaken, which means you've got the loaded mobility routine, which means you should have the single leg good morning stretch that we do in that. That is one of the best things that you can do for your hamstrings, Karina, that single leg good morning.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
absolutely.
Anyway, that's it for today. Yanni are you here tomorrow?
No, I'm on vacation.
Yanni's on vacation from tomorrow. You're only going to have me. So I've got some really cool stuff lined up for next week. And then for the 2 days tomorrow, though, I'm going to bring this mobility stuff in for a landing. So we're going to really bring it into some really good stuff.
Tomorrow we're doing pancake.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm doing pancake, and then on
on
Friday
we're doing how to progress.
Well,
these
we're not.
stretches
I am.
Well, you are.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
Well, I've written the show outline, I had contributed to it.
So that's what's going to happen tomorrow and Friday, and then next week, let's get some feedback on this, because my idea for next week is I have become an absolute master at shoulder conditioning and prehab and rehab for something like a slap tear and torn rotator cuff muscles. So I want to go into doing a week on how to condition scapular stabilizers, a rotator cuff, and how to bulletproof your shoulders, so that not only do you never get injured, but if you did have an injury, you will bounce back from it quicker than you ever have before.
I thought you were doing martial arts kicking.
Yeah, I might do some of that as well. So let's get some feedback. Huh? Tell me what you want to do. Do you want me to do a week on martial arts kicking, on how to become stronger and more skillful and more flexible at martial arts kicking, or do you want me to do a week on how to bulletproof your shoulders? Because both of those things I'm somewhat of an expert at, so I can help you out with them. So let us know. Give us some feedback.
Throw your questions and comments in here, and we'll review them. Rad'll get stuck into reviewing them, and whatever comes up most, he'll do
I'll do a week on that for you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. I will be back on the 2nd of September, Monday. I actually be back on Tuesday the 3rd for the first show. So have a fantastic couple of weeks, and I love you all. We've got some epic content coming out, and look out for the middle splits video today. We're going to do a pancake one again tomorrow. They're already filmed. I just have to get them up onto YouTube. And I can't wait to see you all when I get back.
Awesome. See you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
Bye. Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.